Another wide receiver that I'm very high on heading into this 2014 NFL draft is Mike Evans from Texas A&M. It's kind of interesting to me with the NFL's dynamic in terms of the offensive side of the football. It seems like you have two types of wide receivers that NFL scouts and executives prefer at this point in time. The guys that are 6 feet and under, that can line up outside, that can line up in the slot, that can be utilized on reverses and end arounds, that can be return specialists and be weapons and be home run threats, that make big explosive plays all over the football field. And then it's the 6'4", 6'5", big physical size speed combination wide receivers that everybody loves. The guys that can make the tough catches over the middle, the guys that can get physical with opposing corners and out jump them and out physical them and make those big time plays both in the short and intermediate areas and down the field vertically as well. And Mike Evans definitely fits into the second profile and not the first, excuse me. When I look at Mike Evans and I look at some of the big attributes, the biggest strengths to his game, obviously first is going to be his size. You're talking about a guy that's a legit 6'4", 6'5", probably about 220, 225 pounds or so. He has that prototype NFL number one wide receiver size that all scouts and executives are absolutely going to love. You can't coach that size. You can't teach that type of size. He has it. But not only is he tall, I feel he's relatively well put together. He's a guy that's obviously, at least to me, spent some time in the gym. He's worked on his body and gotten himself to the point where he actually has an NFL-ready body as a wide receiver right now. He's not overly thin. He's not fat with that size. He's very well put together, and that sounds kind of weird for me to say, but that does matter to me. When I look at him, too, I think he has incredible hands. He has the ability to make the routine catches and the tough catches. I love his ability in particular to make those tough catches, to go up and get the ball. I love his ability to make the big time play in a different way as opposed to maybe a Sammy Watkins. A Mike Evans could have somebody grabbing him like this and pulling on him and everything else, and he still finds a way to go win the battle at the top of the ball flight. He has the ability to make the tough NFL catch, which implies to me that he's going to be an incredible threat in the red zone in the National Football League, even better than maybe somebody like a Sammy Watkins because of his ability to beat the jam, because of his ability to outjump opponents due to his vertical and his great size and length, and his ability to utilize great body positioning and hold firm and kind of just get the corners and safeties to drape off of him. I mean, this is a guy here that will have no problems out physicaling people at the National Football League level. There's no question about it. I also think he has a little bit better size than he's being given credit for. Look, he's not somebody like a Sammy Watkins or a Brandon Cooks or an Odell Beckham, somebody along those lines with that kind of blazing speed, if you will. But for a guy that's 6'4", 6'5", maybe 225 pounds, Mike Evans has more than enough deep speed to keep NFL defenses from trying to, overplay him short. He has the ability to go over the top and stretch opposing defenses vertically. So there are some strengths to his game. I also like the fact that, to me, I demonstrated at times that Manziel would kind of just throw up the football, and Mike Evans at times would have the awareness to be able to come back to the football, break off his intended route, and come back to the quarterback and help his quarterback out. I think that's something that he doesn't get enough credit for, that I saw time after time after time with him and Johnny Manziel there at Texas A&M in 2013. That type of awareness for the game, a feel for the game, is something that I really like and appreciate. In terms of some of the areas that are challenging to him, or some of his opportunity areas, if you will, his initial quickness isn't all that good. He's a tall guy. He's a bit of a long strider, so he's not the most explosive player in the short and intermediate areas. He doesn't have a great initial burst, which will lead some people to question his ability to gain separation at the National Football League level. I think he demonstrated enough ability to get that separation at the NFL level, at the college level. I give you the Alabama game as an example. He was dominant. He was a force. He was all over the place. And this is an Alabama defense loaded with NFL talent at all levels of the defense, and he dominated. I mean, he imposed his will. If you want to see what a Mike Evans at his best could be like in the National Football League, go look at the Alabama game, making numerous big-time plays and big-time catches and incredibly tough contested catches over sometimes 2 or 3 defenders. But he will have some trouble, you would think, in theory, because of his lack of great quickness in the intermediate area. He's going to have some trouble gaining separation, maybe, but I don't know how much of a problem that's going to be because, again, being as big and physical as he is, he can use body positioning and strength and muscle to create his openings, if you will. But if he faces a big physical corner, like let's say an Aqib Talib or a Richard Sherman that could run with him and physical with him, he could have some struggles and some problems at the NFL level at times. There's no question about it. I questioned his route running a little bit just because of the fact that times the quarterback that was throwing to him, and Johnny Manziel was running all over the place, scrambling all over the place. So there were maybe times where Evans, because of his size, because of his skill set, didn't always have to run the best routes. And sometimes, frankly, he didn't have the time to run the best routes because he would have to adjust to what his quarterback was doing. So I could maybe say that about every single NFL wide receiver prospect, though, is that they need to work on their route running. You could always get better at that type of thing. I also look at him sometimes and thought he had a tendency to be a little immature, which concerns me just a little bit. Maybe it's misplaced passion. And you like to have players that are passionate, but sometimes he came across to me as just a little bit immature and somebody that could potentially be a distraction in an NFL locker room if he doesn't fully get his way. In terms of my NFL comparison for him, I look at somebody like a Vincent Jackson, somebody with great size, with underestimated speed, that is able to out-physical people, win at the point of attack, be able to go and get the tough catches, be a great red zone target, and at the same time stretch opposing defenses vertically and catch some people by surprise. I think Mike Evans is a top 10 prospect in this draft. I don't think he's quite the prospect overall that a Sammy Watkins is, but I don't think the gap is quite as big as many people are making it out to be. Mike Evans is going to be a very good NFL wide receiver and a big-time weapon, and because of his ability to go make those tough catches, and because of his ability, I think, to be a superior red zone target compared to a Sammy Watkins, he could potentially end up, at the end of the day, when all is said and done, 8-10 years from now, when we go back and look at this draft, being known as the #1 wide receiver that was drafted in the 2014 NFL Draft.